Wade was laid to rest after his mother reported him missing earlier this year. It took police months to let the family know what happened to Wade.
911, what's your emergency?
No! You gotta be...
What is going on at the police department in Jackson, Mississippi?
This one family has lost 2 family members at the hands of officers from the Jackson Police Department in 2 separate cases.
Let's start with the most recent case first. This man is Dexter Wade.
At the Hinds County Pauper Cemetery, Dexter Wade is buried in plot number 672. Wade was laid to rest after his mother reported him missing earlier this year. It took police months to let the family know what happened to Wade. Wade was struck and killed by an off-duty JPD officer in a patrol car. It happened in early March. As Wade was walking near I-55 at McDowell Road, people who know the family are skeptical about the police explanation.
So on March 5th of this year, Dexter was at his mother's house in Jackson, Mississippi when they got into an argument.
His mother states that during the argument, he just walked away and left her house, and then nobody ever saw him again.
Within a half hour of Dexter leaving his mother's house, he would be struck while walking across the road by a Jackson police officer who was off duty driving a patrol car. Sadly, Dexter wouldn't survive the accident.
Dexter would be identified within several days based on a prescription bottle he had in his pocket. However, between the coroner's office and the police department, no one would get a hold of his family.
Sadly, since his family was never notified, Dexter was buried at the local prison cemetery with his grave being marked by this number.
10 days after going missing, Dexter's mother went to the same Jackson Police Department that hit him to file a missing persons report.
But it would take until August, 6 months later, for that police department to come forward and tell the family what had happened to their son.
Dexter's family have hired an attorney and plan to have him exhumed, and hopefully we'll get some answers on what exactly happened here.
But that's not all, YouTube, because Dexter's family was already dealing with the Jackson Police Department for what they did to George Robinson, Dexter's uncle.
This is Dexter's uncle, George Robinson. In 2019, his life was taken by 3 officers from the Jackson Police Department. This is what happened.
Lincoln Lampley, Gerald Fox, and Desmond Barney. Now, in January of 2019, the documents state they pulled him out of his car, body slammed George Robinson headfirst into the pavement, kicked and hit him several times. The coroner ruled his cause of death blunt force trauma to the head. The officers were looking for who killed a pastor.
These are officers Barney, Fox, and Lampley, and they worked for the Jackson Police Department. On that night, they showed up at George's house while he was sitting out front in his car listening to music.
These officers were looking for a man who had robbed a pastor and taken his life, but it wasn't George.
Those 3 officers would order George to get out of his car, which he complied but was slow to get out due to a recent stroke that he just had. So the officers ripped George out of his car, body slammed him, and kicked and punched him in the head and chest multiple times while he was on the ground.
They then arrested George for failure to obey and resisting, but let him go with a court date. An ambulance would also come and check George out, but cleared him on the scene.
However, just a couple hours later, George began having some health issues. He was taken to the hospital where 2 days later, he would lose his life to a brain bleed.
George's loss of life was ruled a homicide, but Jackson police didn't think their officers did anything wrong.
Now, it would take some time, but the 3 officers would end up facing charges for taking George's life. However, the officer in the middle was the only officer found guilty. It's Officer Fox. His sentence was 5 years in prison.
In George's case, his family has filed a civil lawsuit against the ambulance company and the city. So what do you think, YouTube? Is there more to Dexter's case based on the history the police already have with his family?
Or was it just a tragic mistake that they didn't contact the family? Let us know.